What's up, guys? It's Alph. We're back. We're doing another mock draft. This time we're doing the entire first round. Um, I did the Seahawks on Sunday, and I'm gonna do the first round, and then next week will either be two full rounds or maybe another team. If I get somebody that wants to have one of these teams done, uh, then I'll get that done. Here at one, the Titans did talk about how they weren't going to pass on what they believe is a generational prospect. I'm not sure who they think is that generational prospect. I think the closest thing to it is Abdul. I think he's the best player in the draft. He's just an elite edge. He plays the run very well. His his pad level's consistent. He can play very well against leaner tackles or big tackles that just kind of use their size against you. He can get around people. He's got really good moves to get him on the inside. Just I think he's the best player in the draft, and if they think he's a generational prospect or close to it, then it's it's a reasonable thing to think. I don't think he's a generational prospect. I think he's a good prospect. Um, like he's a great player, and he's good enough to be a building block for your rebuild, but I don't know. The top of this draft just doesn't impress me like that. Um, the Browns could take a quarterback. I don't know if they will. I sad enough to say as it is, I am not in tune with the Browns media and who they want at pick 2. Maybe they want to trade down. I'm just not in it. Um, but the Browns just desperately need some talent. I could see him taking a quarterback because this was a team just 2 years ago was like what 11-6 and firmly in the playoffs. They lost pieces, of course, but it's not some like talent deprived, god awful roster that just needs whatever they can get. Like Deshaun Watson sucks. We know. Jameis Winston wasn't doing great things, and then Dorian Thompson Robinson, that experiment's not working out. They could take a corner. They could take a corner. They could take a quarterback. Um, I think that's kind of it. I think they take Travis Hunter. They take one of the two quarterbacks. Uh, I don't know who they're gonna want to take. I think I'm gonna give him Travis Hunter. I don't love it. Um, I don't love where the Browns are really, just generally, because neither of these quarterbacks I think are QBs that you want coming in and starting day one. Leading the way. I don't I don't know if I'd want any of the QBs in this class starting day one. I mean, Shedeur Sanderson's fine. He's very accurate. He'd be good. He'd be great in like a Shanahan system, uh, where he can make all the right reads and do all the short passes and the quick game. And then Cam Ward's got very good arm talent. His pocket presence is really good. He is very willing to throw the ball into tight spaces, and he makes the throws often. Uh, they're good quarterbacks. It's not like they suck, but I don't want any. They're the only two quarterbacks that should feasibly go in the first round. Uh, Jalen Milroe's not a quarterback. He's a tight end or something, bro. He can't throw the football. He's Anthony Richardson, but worse. And that's saying something because Anthony Richardson's not great. Jackson Dart. I don't get it. I don't. He's fine. He's pretty okay at everything. I hate Quinn Ewers. I think Quinn Ewers sucks. I have like a fifth round grade on Quinn Ewers. Um, Will Howard's pretty good. He can make plays with his legs, but I don't know if the plays that he was making in college are gonna be available in the NFL. The lanes that he was given and the mistakes that the defense had made against him are not gonna get made at the next level. Dylan Gabriel's not an NFL quarterback. He's not 5'10". He's he's all of like 5'8" and a half. He he's like literally shorter than Bryce Young. That's how tiny Dylan Gabriel is. I just don't think it's feasible that he's gonna have enough talent to overcome that. Riley Leonard's really good on the ground with his legs, and he is willing to take a hit. Kyle McCord is great under pressure. Uh, but anyways, it's not a great quarterback class. That's kind of my point. I don't want to take a quarterback and expect that they're going to lead the way for from day one, at all. I mean, one of these teams is going to have to do it, but it's not going to be the Browns. And then the Giants are just going to take the best quarterback in the class, and I think it's Cam Ward. I don't. I mean, the Giants roster isn't awful. I don't know if that's crazy to say. They got a good defensive line. This is a really good corner class, and they've got picks in this draft. They can make some. They can make something happen if they draft well. Their GM needs to listen to his son more. Um, the Pats are a spot for me where it's either an offensive lineman or a receiver. Uh, and with the identity that I think Mike Vrabel's going to want to bring in, he's going to take an offensive lineman over taking the best receiver in the class. This is a good receiver class. You can get good. There's probably like what 2, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe 14 receivers could go in the first 2 days. I mean, you got you got a ton of talent here at the top. But I think they're gonna take Will Campbell. The like I said, the identity that Mike Vrabel's gonna want to bring into that Patriots team is um an identity that is you build from the trenches out. You've got your franchise quarterback. You have a not much else. But you got the quarterback, and that's the hardest thing to find. And Drake May is that guy. Um, this is another spot where it could be a receiver. Um, this could be a spot where, like, if Christian Kirk's injury is really serious, they could take a receiver. If it's not, then their receiver room I think is actually pretty good. Because they have Brian Thomas Jr., who's obviously stellar. He's only going to get better with a good offensive mind in there, in Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence back healthy. Um, they have Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is a good deep threat. He got paid way too much, but that's fine. He's not a god awful player. And then Christian Kirk is a good receiver who broke his collarbone. It's it's tough. They had all those injuries last year, and they're only the fifth pick in the draft. They missed like so many players, and they're the fifth pick in the draft. Um, yeah. I think they're gonna take Mason Graham. I think Mason Graham is the best interior lineman in the draft. Interior defensive lineman, I mean. It's him and Kenneth Grant, I think, are very close. Kenneth Grant plays nose tackle, and it's just inherently a less valuable position than the three tech. Um, but Mason Graham's really good. Mason Graham is a disruptor on the defensive line, and you put him in that defensive line with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen. It's it's good things are gonna happen when you pick Mason Graham and put him on that defensive line. Teams are gonna be afraid to face you. Um, the Raiders just need whatever the hell they can get, and Shador Sanders falls into their lap. Um, I don't love the fit of Shador Sanders in the Chip Kelly offense, but it's a pick that you got to make because otherwise you're going to be starting Aiden O'Connell. And I don't hate Aiden O'Connell. I actually think Aiden O'Connell's pretty okay. Uh, but he's not your franchise guy, and you would like to just get the guy that you think is your franchise guy in there as soon as possible. The Jets are a spot that I've seen Tyler Warren get picked to. I've seen them take Malachi Starks. I've seen them take Will Johnson. I've seen them take Tedero McMillan. Um, but the Jets are probably losing DJ Reed, who had a down year. He he's gonna be asking for a lot, and then you don't have a CB2 next to Sauce Gardner. So I think what I would do if I was the Jets GM and I had Aaron Glenn in my ear, I'd be taking Will Johnson because he's the best defender left at that point. I think he might be the best player left at that point. It's probably him or Ashton Genty. Um, but they're not going to draft a running back because they have Brees Hall and Isaiah Davis, who are both great players. This is another spot where I've seen pass rusher go. I've seen Michael Williams. I've seen James Pierce. Apparently, James Pierce had some character issues come up. I'm not sure if those were credible like reports, but I do know he like some people are. Oh, was Mel Kiper that said that? Character concerns because he got arrested or something. He's in danger of getting dropped off our board, said the director of player personnel of an AFC playoff team. Granted, we're a strict team in terms of character, but we have a ton of concerns, and I don't think he's a fit for us. He was arrested in December 2023 at a traffic stop. I have literally no idea. He's going 63 and a 35, and he had an expired tag. And he was driving on a suspended license. Hmm. I I don't know, man. I don't think that he did anything too serious, but we don't have any specific reports. There's also been something coming out about Mike Green. Uh, Mike Green's at 33 on the board. Uh, Apparently he got dropped off the University of Virginia football team a couple years ago, and there's been a ton of speculation that it was a like a sexual assault charge or something, and that his agent talked to um the University of Virginia staff and was like, "Hey, don't say anything about this." Um, and that's why when they did cut him, they said when they got rid of him, they were like, "Yeah, Mike Green's not a member of the football team anymore." They didn't elaborate. They said they weren't gonna elaborate, but it came out at the Senior Bowl that it's apparently people think it's sexual assault. So we'll see what's up there. If anything comes out about that. But yeah, the Panthers I've seen take secondary. I've seen them take pass rush. They have Derek Brown. Derek Brown's really good. They have Jadeveon Clowney, who they might cut because he is going to be expensive. Um, I could see them taking a guy like Michael Williams, because I don't know if the Panther. I think the Panthers are a year or two away from really being in that upper echelon, And Michael Williams would fit with that timeline. He isn't a sure prospect, but he is a physical freak. He is athletically just insane. When this gets updated and it shows his relative athletic score, it's gonna be like 9.8, which the RAS is out of 10, and 10 means the highest average of all of your athletic scores of your position that season. Um, and I think he's going to be right up there with the highest relative athletic scores of the edge group. Uh, Plus, he's huge physically. He's very physically imposing. He's got great, great potential. He has the potential to be like a game wrecking franchise, like franchise player at the edge position. I think I'm talking myself into Michael Williams for the Panthers. I really just think he's raw. He's not a sure prospect, but you're the Panthers who saw really good play out of Bryce Young. Um, you saw extremely like you saw the offensive line do good work. You saw Chuba Hubbard had a really good year. You, I think you just want to take who you believe is the best player available, not named Ashton Genty, because Ashton Genty, um, issue that you have with Ashton Genty is he plays running back, and you got a good running back. You got two good running backs over there in Charlotte. Jonathan Brooks, he tore his ACL. Um, yeah, the Panthers have two good running backs if Jonathan Brooks can stay healthy. But anyways, they brought in a completely new staff, and I have no idea what they want. Alvin Kamara's getting older. He's not completely like hit a wall though. It's not like he's an awful player. Um, I could see the Saints doing a few things. I could see the Saints taking Ashton Genty. Um, I just kind of have. I'm just not sure what the Saints would like to do at pick 9. I could see him taking Ashton Genty. I could see him taking an offensive lineman. That's intriguing. Kelvin Banks. Um, I think Kelvin Banks could stay at left tackle. I think you could do the little switch where you take Kelvin Banks, put him at left tackle, and then you move Talish Fuanga back to right tackle, which is his natural position. He played left tackle this entire year, and he was good. So you just think he was good at left tackle. What if you put him back at right tackle, which is his natural position? That gets Trevor Penning off the field, and Trevor Penning is awful. That gives you a better right tackle and a left tackle who is better right now than Trevor Penning probably. He's probably better than. What am I trying to say? Calvin Banks is better at left tackle than Trevor Penning is at right tackle. So if you take Talis Fuanga and you move him to right tackle, and you put in Kelvin Banks, it's going to be significantly better for your offensive line than if you kept Trevor Penning on the field. Or you take Kelvin Banks and you put him at left guard. Uh, it's also an option. He is 6'4". He has the build for left guard or left tackle. He's got the length in the arms, and he is athletic enough to play on. He's athletic enough to stay at tackle. He has the talent and the ability to stay at tackle. But if you put him at left tackle and he struggles, you move him inside and you move Tali Swanga back, and you have a great left guard, or at least hopefully a great left guard. Um, I like that for the Saints. Kellen Moore the was just with the Eagles, who do all of their business from the trenches out, and I think he's gonna keep that up. The Bears really, really need help on the offensive line. Like, just in whatever way they can get it. Who's the best offensive lineman available in my eyes? Armand Membu. Um, Armand Membu gave up 9 pressures at right tackle the entire season. He's 6'4" ish, but his arms aren't very long. I think. I'm pretty sure his measurements were that his arms aren't too long, but I could just be wrong. Because if I go, yeah, I think he had a pretty small wingspan, and he's like 6'4". So he does slot better to guard. Um, I think he is a day one starter at left or right guard, whichever one you want to play him at. If you lose Tevin Jenkins in the offseason, then you put Armand Membu at left guard, and he performs very well in pass protection. He performs like above average, I would say, in the run. And you just need to help your most valuable asset with Caleb Williams being there. Ben Johnson knows what you can do with an offense with a good offensive line. And I think he's going to want to try and start to build that at this point. You got a little bit of a run right now on offensive line. 2 back to back. This might be a third. This might be a third back to back. But who do you want it to be? We go offensive tackle Josh Simmons. That's intriguing. Um, yeah, that's very interesting. You see Tedero McMillan falling a little bit. I just don't know where he's gonna go. The Panthers could have taken him. That would have been a good fit. And then you kind of have a run on teams that don't have a huge need at receiver. Um, the Niners could use a receiver, but McMillan plays outside, and you have Ayuk and Pearsall, who are both players who can also kind of play outside. You wouldn't have a designated kind of interior receiver, someone to play out of that slot. You can probably put Ricky Pearsall in the slot because he is shifty. He does have his shuttle time was really good. Like he's not huge to the point where if you put him on the interior, it's just gonna be difficult for him to make quick cuts. But the Niners do have a glaring need on that offensive line. I kind of feel like Josh Simmons would be the pick. Josh Simmons was, I would say, the best offensive lineman in the draft before he got hurt. Uh, and if the injuries go away, he is going to be, uh, I would say, close to a franchise left tackle. With Trent Williams getting older, you could kick Josh Simmons inside, or you could just sit him for a year, and you could develop him behind one of the best left tackles to ever do it, Trent Williams. I I like the fit. Josh Simmons is a guy who has all the talent and all the ability to do whatever he needs to do, or whatever you need him to do. He fits with the system. Josh Simmons is a really good player, and that's the bottom line. Is he's a stellar player. And then Ashton Genty at 12. It's a great fit. He wants to go there. I think that's just what you have to do. It's that you take a receiver. This is a spot where the Dolphins need secondary help. They're losing. Um, they're losing a few players this offseason probably because they don't have a ton of money. This is a spot where I could see Malachi Starks going. This is a spot where I could see someone like Tyler Booker going. Tyler Booker is the best pure guard in the draft. Um, Plays the left. The He plays left guard. He is probably, I would say he's a above average day one starter. I think you put him in at left guard and he just works. And I think he's very moldable into your system. The um the quick passes and the getting him out into space. You could pull him, or you take Malachi Starks, who is the best safety in the class. He is like Malachi Starks does everything you want a top tier safety to do. He's got good ball skills. He's a very good tackler. He plays well in one-on-one scenarios. He can cover basically anybody out of like he can cover out of the backfield. He can cover tight end running the seam. He can cover receivers over the middle. He can cover receivers taking a post or to the corner. Uh, Malachi Starks is really good. He's good in run defense. You can just kind of take him and be extremely happy with what you know he's gonna be, and that's a top like a top end safety. It's one of the two. Malachi Starks or Tyler Booker. I'm leaning Starks because he is maybe the best player available. Um, it's him or it's Tedero and McMillan who are the best available. And I really like Malachi Starks. The fit is there. The fit is there, and he's a great player. Um, this would be another spot where I could have seen Malachi Starks going, but the Colts I think are just gonna take whoever they think is gonna help Anthony Richardson hopefully blossom into the player that he could be. And I think Tyler Warren is that. Tyler Warren's a safety blanket for whatever quarterback you put him in front of. He can make he can run any route you want him to run. He can make plays. He's just a stellar player. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna leave James Pierce Jr. off of the board, just in like a respect to the report. I don't know who made the report. I don't know what the report specifically said. Which it kind of sucks. The Falcons really need pass rush, but this is a good edge class. Um, you can get an edge in the second round, like 46 or whatever it is that you have. Nine. Can I see? Can I see? Yeah, 46. Um, Jack Sawyer would probably be available. Landon Jackson would probably be available. Princely Umanmielen might be available. There's players that are going to be available at that point that you can also get at pass rush that you'd be really happy with. I'm kind of leaning Ben Morrison. Ben Morrison does have the injury concerns, but he would be a very good corner to put with AJ Terrell. Um, and just have him play wherever you need him to play. He's got the size to play outside. I think he might actually kind of play a little bit of that nickel if you need him to. I think another player who can play that nickel if you go to corner. They have listed as safety. Jade Barron. Jade. Uh, they have him listed as safety. I think um I think he's a first round player. I think he can play outside corner. I think he's probably best in the nickel. I think he could play I think he could play the safety. He's a very versatile player, but their biggest need right now is a good player in coverage and a great cornerback. And it just so happens there's a really, really good one available. The Cardinals, they started Evan Brown at left guard. Um, I think that's kind of all you need to hear. Evan Brown is god awful at football. He, um, the Cardinals' game plan against the Seattle Seahawks, where they had Evan Brown play 1-on-1 against Leonard Williams or Byron Murphy the entire game. I think he let up like 2.5 sacks and like 8 pressures that game. Uh, yeah, so they need to protect Kyler Murray. Their defense needs work, but it's not awful. Biggest issue you have right now is you don't have good protection for Kyler Murray, and you are in a great division in the NFC West. The NFC West could have 3 playoff teams next year. The NFC West could have 4 playoff teams next year because they play the NFC and AFC South. And to be fair, I mean, you have 2 teams, 2 teams from the NFC South, and then 2 teams from the AFC South in the top 10. And then you have the Colts. You've, 5 teams in the top 15 in division that you played against, you know? Um, plus the Falcons, you have, you're playing against 2 very, very easy divisions. You could win feasibly. The Cardinals, Seahawks, Rams, and 49ers could all win 6 or 7 of those games against the NFC and AFC South, and I don't think I'd be shocked at all. Before the Cardinals, they need to protect Kyler Murray, and they're going to take who they think is best suited to do that, and I think it's Tyler Booker. Tyler Booker is the pure left guard. He comes in, takes over, starts day one, and is just a great player. The Bengals need to protect Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is much too valuable, and he's way too good for you to continue wasting years in the prime of his career when he's at his peak, or what is his physical peak at like 27, 28 years old, um, you're squandering those years that you have, those valuable years with Joe Burrow. Um, but you had maybe the worst defense in the league last year, and you still went 9-8. Uh, so you're just gonna take a really, really good pass rusher, and he because they're losing. No, they're losing Jermaine Pratt as well. He requested that trade, and I think they're gonna give it to him. So you're just gonna take Jalen Walker, who is a really good pass rusher who can also play off-ball linebacker. Um, the Seahawks need help on the offensive line, also. But the issue is your GM and John Schneider doesn't want to invest in the offensive line. Um, that doesn't matter. Gray Zabel can play, I think, genuinely every single spot on the offensive line well. Gray Zabel's 6'5". I think he's all of 6'5", 330. And he was a killer at North Dakota State. He was making those FCS guys look like fifth graders out there. He was dominant. And then the question that came up was, well, can he do it against the good players? And then he went to the Senior Bowl and maybe did the good players worse than he did the players who aren't who are at the small schools. I mean, he looked like he was basically he was unbeatable. And I don't think he lost a single one-on-one rep. And maybe I just didn't see it. But Gray Zabel is an absurd player. The versatility and the talent that's there is like it's visible. You watch like even just 3 or 4 minutes of some Gray Zabel like highlights, or you even just go watch his one-on-one reps from the Senior Bowl, and you get a very good grasp on how good of a player Gray Zabel is. Um, we're gonna see our first receiver go off the board here. I think, I think I'm gonna take Tetero McMillan. Tetero McMillan, has the Mike Evans comp to me. They is Chris Godwin a free agent? I believe Chris Godwin's a free agent. And you did draft Jalen McMillan. Oh, they pushed back his contract void date, so they can't use. They're trying to negotiate with him, but he did get hurt, and it is seeming like he's gonna get a contract. But when your number two, your number one and your number two receiver are both getting up, they're both getting up there in age. Tetero McMillan falls into your lap. He is a stellar player. I mean, Tetero McMillan. It's an easy pick to make for the Bucks, and he does slip a little bit. He does slip down, but I think we see a. We're gonna. I was gonna say we might see a little bit of a run on receiver here, and you could see the the Broncos taking the slot receiver, but this class is full of very good slot receivers. Tez Johnson is in this. I mean, Xavier Restrepo plays in the slot. Isaiah Bond plays in the slot. Egbuka, Golden, and Burden can play out of the slot. Well, Egbuka and Burden are slot guys, and Golden can do a little bit of both. Jack Besh plays out of the slot. Yeah, it's a ton of very good slot receivers, which makes me think that instead of taking one at the top when there's better players available, take one just a little bit later. And I really like the fit of Tez Johnson because Tez Johnson knows Bo Nix. They have really, really good chemistry together, and he's a great player. So you could hope to get Tez Johnson later, or you could even just draft him in the second round and be happy with him. Uh, but the Broncos tight end one is, oh yeah, Adam Troutman. Adam Troutman is bad. Like, he is awful. You need a tight end, and Colston Loveland's the best receiving tight end in the draft. I think he would be great with Bo Nix. He's got a really big catch radius. And I really like the fit. I really like the fit with Colston Loveland. The Steelers are another spot I could see a receiver going. Depends on what they do with the quarterback. Because the Steelers have a great defense, and it kind of felt like they were a good slot receiver and a quarterback away last year. Their offensive line wasn't, my bad. Their offensive line wasn't stellar by any means. It wasn't top tier, but it was good. Um, but you need a receiver because you basically only have George Pickens. I mean, you have other players in the receiving room, like, but nothing that you would consider to be in your future going forward. I'm gonna take a Emeka Egbuka. I think he boosts himself the combine over I think he boosts himself over Luther Burden at the combine, and I think Luther Burden's really good. I just don't think he is. I don't think he's gonna get taken over Emeka Egbuka because Emeka Egbuka is longer, and he can make plays on the ball in one-on-one scenarios a little bit more. Um, this is another fit that I really like is Kenneth Grant, the Michigan guy, to Jim Harbaugh. Um, they need a nose. Kenneth Grant is a top 10 player in the class. And I think you're going to be really happy with that. The the Packers are in a funny scenario. The Packers have talent on the offense. They got a lot of talent on the offense. They don't have a wide receiver one. They really need a wide receiver one. But they also have like nobody very good at all in the cornerback room. They have Jair Alexander, who is extremely injury prone and seemingly slowing down a little bit. So if we come here to cornerback, this might be a little bit of a wild pick, but I'm gonna take Azaria Thomas out of Florida State. I think he is. If we come to corner, I can't look at the past ones. Travis Hunter is a corner. That's two. I think there's three corners in this class who are better. I think I think Azaria Thomas is the fourth best corner in the class. I think he, with a good combine performance, and then if Ben Morrison's injury, like if the medicals come out bad on Ben Morrison and Azaria Thomas shows out, I think Azaria Thomas could boost himself into the middle of the first round. He has a very great build for a corner. He's got very good hands. He's a willing tackler in the run. He has he's good in press. He really gets receivers um like off balance when trying to get into their breaks. He's handsy, and I don't think it's gonna cause holding penalties. He's not handsy like how Terrion Arnold was handsy last year, where he was like grabbing people late into their routes and post like out of their break. He was like holding jerseys and stuff, and he had a ton of DPI calls and a ton of holding calls this year. Um, he's not that kind of handsy. He's really like just he's capable of getting you off balance and giving himself leverage. And he's sticky. He's very sticky in coverage. I am a I'm a really big fan of Azaria Thomas out of Florida State. Um, and then we have the Vikings. The Vikings have like the worst secondary in the league. Um, and this is a spot where I'm going to take Jade Barron out of Texas. I think Jade Barron could play outside corner. I think he could play nickel. I think he could play safety. He kind of does everything that you want at a pretty high level. I think you're just very happy with Jade Barron at 24. He is a big boost to your secondary. Um, this is a spot with the Texans where they really need help on this offensive line, and they're gonna get it with Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. Donovan Jackson's a left guard. He's a really really good left guard. He was very talented at Ohio State. It's clear that he really understands. I don't know if he was a wrestler in high school or something, but his understanding of leverage in pass pro, he can move backwards, and he does he does it really well where while he's moving backwards, he is putting enough force forwards to get you off balance, and he really understands how to play leverage, and his hand placements are really really good. And it could be a wrestling background. I'm not 100% sure if he has a wrestling background, but he plays like somebody who has won state titles in wrestling. Because you think back to what's his name? Jeff Bostic was, I think, a center for the Redskins. That's his name. I'm so glad I pulled that. But he was a multi-time state champion wrestler, and you could see in his game that he just understood the leverage. He had really quick hands. He had quick feet. You were not beating him with power or a bull rush. He just was gonna beat you every time, and I think Donovan Jackson does that so well. Um, he is a player to me that is climbing the ranks. I could see him taking over the left guard one spot from Tyler Booker if Donovan Jackson goes out and has an elite combine. The Rams, I really, I really hate this as a Seahawk fan who absolutely despises the Rams. Luther Burden just falls into their laps. He is him and Puka Nacua are just not gonna be fair in the same receiver room under Sean McVay. I mean, oh my, he's so talented. He's fast. He's got extremely good hands. He runs the crispest routes in the draft. He's the best route runner in the draft, in my opinion. Just such a good player, and he just falls right into Sean McVay's hands, and it is gonna be disgusting seeing what they dial up with him. The Ravens lost, or they are seemingly not gonna retain Patrick Kakari or Ronnie Stanley. Um, and I think, in my opinion, the best offensive lineman available, who also fits their team really well, is Ariante Ursery. Like I said, you see James Pierce here. I'm just not gonna take him because of the stuff that's coming out. I don't know the validity of what is being said about him, but I don't want to have this come up later and be like, "Why would you take James Pierce? This video was uploaded after he did all this stuff." Like I don't want to deal with that. I don't think anybody like cares that much, but the Lions need some pass rush. The Lions have Walter Nolan fall right into their laps. Walter Nolan plays on the interior of the defensive line. Him and Aiden Hutchinson on the same D line is not going to be fun to play against. I'll tell you that. Um, Shamar Stewart would also be a player that they could take there. They could have taken Derek Harmon. Um, I have an early second round grade on Shamar Stewart, and I have a mid first round grade on Walter Nolan. I've watched a ton of tape from both of them. I just think Walter Nolan has like the with good development, and the Lions seem to develop players pretty well. With some good development in like I'd say give it till like about midway through his second year. I think Walter Nolan's really gonna find his step, and he's just gonna be a force on the interior. The Commanders. This is a fit that I really like. We're going running back. We're going to Marion Hampton. Marion Hampton would be, I think, really, really good in the Kingsbury style West Coast offense, where he can get downhill and he can make plays with on the ground, but he's also not a shabby receiver. He's not a bad receiver. I mean, he has good hands. He makes plays in the open field. Um, and I just really like the fit. They need a running back. Brian Robinson's not getting it done over there, you know. And then Nick Emenwari is the most, maybe the most physically gifted player in the class. Honestly, he's all of 6'4", 235. I think he's got like he understands how to play football. He's just a really good damn football player. Um, and then the Chiefs get Cameron Williams. The Chiefs need a better right tackle than Jawan Taylor. Jawan Taylor generates so much pressure against Mahomes. He's not good, man, and he keeps getting these calls for false starts because he jumps. He does this thing where he jumps and gets like a half a step in right like milliseconds before the ball gets snapped. And it's not, I don't think it's technically a flag at all. I think there's something in the rules that like benefits and favors what he's doing, but it's getting called anyways and he refuses to stop. Um it's just a need for them, you know? You saw what happened in the Super Bowl. They got absolutely demolished by a good defensive line. Um, and Cam Williams is a kind of, I don't know if I'm saying he's an elite right tackle prospect, but he's a very good right tackle prospect, and he's better than Jawan Taylor. I think he's got the tools and the size and the ability to be your right tackle of the next 7 or 8 years. You know, like I think he's good enough for that. Um, let's see. The Eagles are starting Nakobe Dean at off ball linebacker. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I like Zach Bond a lot. I think Zach Bond is really good. Uh, but I also think that you take Jihad Campbell. He just fell directly into your lap. Let's download this. Jihad Campbell was the number one pass rusher in his class out of high school. And he's a really good blitzer. I think he fits into um the Fangio defense that isn't blitz heavy, but they do bring a lot of different fronts. They sometimes will drop a play. They'll drop a defensive lineman and rush a linebacker. Jihad Campbell would be stellar in that role. He's a great coverage player. He's just a really, really good linebacker. Uh, so that's gonna be the draft. I tried to not go with what everybody was doing, and then I kind of went with what everybody was doing anyways, which is unfortunate. Who did we? Can I see who we didn't pick? No, I can't. I can't see who we didn't end up with. I think Nick Scorton didn't get picked. I think a few people didn't get picked. Anyway, that's the draft. I'll be back probably this weekend for some for another mock draft. If anybody wants a specific team, let me know. And like and subscribe. I forget to say that during the video every time. But we'll be back at some point.